Hey everyone, it's Neflarian with another Familiars video from Ancient Odyssey down, World Boss Tier 14 down, and the 11th raid. Again, I'm not going to be going over every familiar, but more so just the ones you might want to keep an eye on when you're in that tier, and I will only mention ones that can be obtained from within that tier. So even if a schematic is available or some of the parts are, I'm not going to talk about the familiar until you can actually make them. I'm also not going to talk about invasion or expedition familiars, those are going to be totally separate. If you missed my other videos, check them out, as those familiars will carry you through this tier as well. In tier 14, we do not have any new world boss, so these familiars can all be found in the raid and in the zone. First up is Bleemax. It's an epic familiar, so he doesn't have the greatest stats, but he's a tank. If you don't have a tank at this point, I gotta ask, why? But hey, if you don't have one, this is a fairly cheap option you can get. Built-in 22.5% electric resistance. Their stat spread is okay. 54% health, 20% attack, and 11% speed. There's not a lot of wasted speed. There's just not a lot of attack because he is epic. He's got shield self for sustain. His big benefit though is he has a shock skill at that 0 SP. You're not going to get to use it a lot, but if you have other familiars or if you yourself can use shock skills, he'll help just kind of get you there a little bit faster. For that reason, he is actually worth kind of looking at. Otherwise, not my cup of tea. The next familiar is Cezana. Not quite as good as Bleemax in my opinion because it doesn't have that shock skill, but they are kind of nice for a different reason. Their built-in stats are 5% air resist and 35% block. That's not as nice as having the 22.5 electric resistance like Bleemax, but block is not dependent on elements, so you can max block and get that straight 50%. Their stats are okay, 22% attack, 46% health, and 17% speed, so they've got a little bit more speed than I would like, but overall not bad. They have some drain skills and shield self, so they're not just sustaining with shield, but they can't really sustain your team. For that reason, I would consider passing. You should already have a tank at this point. These are just some tanks you might look at if for some reason you manage to get through here without having a tank. Moving into legendaries, we have Chichen, I don't know, Goblin Chicken, that's who it is. He's really expensive, needing a Gabi, which is already rare, on top of 150 raid materials, but he is a really neat DPS. He's got 10% earth damage and 5% quad strike, which is huge, and also has the ability to start combat at full shields. I don't have this guy myself to use him, so I don't know exactly how useful that is, but on paper it seems really great. His stats are also pretty good, 52% attack, 20% health, and 23% speed. A little bit low on speed, but still really good. You can use most baits for this familiar as well. His skills do leave a little bit to be desired, damaging random, damaging furthest, but the big benefit of his skills is that the 1 SP there's oxidize, so he'll hit and drop the enemy shields by half, which is really awesome if you're going against someone that's on a build focused on shielding. This familiar will get rid of their shields. Next we have Micane, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I want to go over him because he is useful later on. He's got 15% in power and 20% air damage, so those brain procs are gonna be strong. His stats are pretty decent, a little bit low on speed, with only 20% speed compared to 56% attack, 18.9% health, so most baits can bait for him as well. His problem though is that he doesn't really have any good skills. Damaging weakest, there is a damage target, there's a couple multi-hits, but you can't really choose who. Just not great. He's also pretty expensive, needing 3-4 epics and 150 materials. He's useful though for a mythic familiar. This guy does get used there, so if you're gonna be hanging out in this tier, you might as well make him. Our last legendary familiar is the one you've been waiting for since tier 1, when I was going over there saying, well, Grimm's is good and Pengy is good, but don't use them, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, spoiler alert. You wanted to save them for Penguita, using Ignitia from Abyss and then pings from tier 1, maybe tier 2, something like that, and then 150 raid materials. This is the best DPS you will get up to this point. They're not the best in the game, they're pretty far from it, but they are the best you can get to this point. Built-in 20% speed attaches onto their already fairly high speed, giving you more chances to hit, and 15% fire damage, giving you stronger hits. Their stats are great for a DPS. 44% attack, 20% health, 31% speed. Like, that's amazing. That's like the perfect stat spread at this point in the game. Their big benefit though are their skills. They've got some good ones later on, damage weakest 3 times, damage 2 random, whatever. Their 0 SP is damage closest 2 plus combustion. So combustion will proc brains. So you're damaging 2, so you get 2 potential brain procs plus 2 combustions. You get 4 potential brain procs. You hit dual strike, you get 8 off of that 0 SP. Penguita is useful for their brain procs, and this is the best familiar you're going to have at this point for them. Once you actually hit the explosions from combustion, you're going wild, you're going to delete teams. Make this familiar. All the other ones are like, well, if you need the familiar, then make Penguita. Then once you get those better DPS familiars that I kind of hinted at, they're still useful to make a mythic familiar. And that mythic familiar is Hunaku. He's got 15% water damage, 20% dual strike, and 20% SP gain. So he's able to get a lot of hits out. He's able to get his SP up fast and do extra damage. Her stat spread is really great, 42, 20, 39. So really great for DPS. His skills are actually pretty decent. There's a lot of multi-hits. The thing I don't like is that he's water-based, so it's a freeze-based skills. And I don't really like freeze. It's better than a lot of people give it credit for, but really all it does is just slow down the enemy. He does pair really well with the Hector set though, where you can get shatters, because he'll help get your opponent frozen so you can shatter them quicker. Honestly, I would prefer to use Penguita over Hunaku. However, once you are past Penguita, which only happens in a tier or 2, Hunaku is a phenomenal familiar to have and will pair well with a lot of in-game gear that will get you to shatter and freeze the enemy. So those are the familiars that I wanted to mention from tier 14. We got some really great familiars, including one of, if not the best DPS that you can actually get up to this point. Is there a familiar you think I skipped over that should have been included? What were your favorite familiars? Let me know in the comments down below, and good luck on your grinds for the best familiars. If you want to discuss this video, my past videos, and suggest future ones, check out my Discord, linked in the description below. You'll find helpful and hyped community and get all of the news regarding your favorite games. Big giveaways and events hosted for the Bitverse will be mentioned there, so with any luck you can win things like XXL packs or Ultra Gores. By being a part of my community, you won't ever miss a chance to enter those, and there will even be exclusive giveaways occasionally for members of my community. I hope to see you there, and thanks for hanging out today. If you want to support me in getting better equipment or making more videos, check out the link on my channel, and don't forget to like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and subscribe if you want more, and I will see you in the next video.